Hi, welcome to the Ignorance Project, and I recruited my best friend against her will to join me today. Hi,
Yeah.
Shreya. Thank
Hi, Reen.
I appreciate you. Thanks.
You know I love you.
I know you have to agree to this. So I am recently Hamilton obsessed. It's ridiculous. You think I've been watching it for the past like 5 years, 4 or 5 years, however long it's been out with the amount of time I keep talking about it in the past, 3 days? And I know I know you're like the only person that's gonna be as interested in this as I am.
That you know.
That you know. So I kind of made you watch Hamilton.
Yes, because until now, I had only listened to the soundtrack maybe 10 or 20 times, but I
See,
had never
that's the
actually
thing.
seen it.
Like,
Huh?
how many people, I feel like my head just keeps getting cut off. It's okay. How many people do we know that like willingly listen to soundtracks of musicals? For me, it's you.
Honestly, I only know two. Of course, besides, I guess maybe some people listen to The Lion King, which is only because it was made into a cartoon.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think my first introduction to musicals outside of, Disney was maybe my cousin. Again, a musical I had never seen, but I
Yeah.
loved the soundtrack and I listened to it
Yeah.
over and over again. It was Les Miserables, even though it
Oh,
was
that's one of my
so
favorites. That was the
depressing.
first play I saw. I saw it in England, West End. That's the second one. But that was like the second official one. My first one was Beauty and the Beast. But
Oh, you saw
Les
that
Mis is
on
my
theater?
second. Yeah. I saw it in
That's
Huntsville.
amazing.
Like the
Really?
theater company came to Huntsville. I went with Maria. I won't say her last name since I'm posting this, but I went with her and her family to see Beauty and the Beast, and it was great. And I'm like, oh my
Wow.
goodness, why am I not? I could have changed my life then. I should have just been like, I'm going to be on Broadway, but I can't sing.
I don't know if didn't it inspire you? I was gonna say Les Miserables was my first one too. I actually saw it in Chicago while I was in university. But actually, when I was in high school, my first musical that I seen live was in England. It's called The Producers, and it was when I was doing the people to people
Oh, I've heard of that
student
one.
ambassador thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had never heard of it. I was just like, "Oh, we're going to a musical,"
Like,
and
okay.
honestly, I don't remember much of it.
Hmm.
But after that, so I guess I've seen two
Hmm.
that I've seen live, but most of my exposure to the stories of theater was Wishbone.
There. Why did I never think about that? That's a great point.
Wishbone,
Wishbone's like the original
the original. It exposed you to
for
everything.
kids. Oh my goodness, that's a great point. And
I
I'm
loved Wishbone.
really obsessed. So that's why I wanted you to do this conversation with me because I know we have the same interests and we're both like
The same
really
issues? You said we have the
excited.
same issues?
Same issues, same interests.
Oh,
I said
okay.
interest, but still the same. But so
Okay.
thank you for agreeing to this. And
Yeah. Only for you, Rain.
I know, I know. So first, my first question to you is like, what was your response to watching the musical versus listening to the soundtrack?
You know, there were so many things that made more sense
Yeah.
once you know who's speaking and when the dialogue has shifted to a new person, which, I don't think I realized that. So I think I had a kind of a faulty understanding of the storyline because I didn't realize how much which character was speaking changed
Mm-hmm.
in mid-line almost,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So it
Yeah, I
kind of,
can see that from listening, how you wouldn't necessarily pick up on that as much. Yeah.
and you mentioned a character, John Lawrence. You mentioned to me before I actually saw it, and I was like, "Who is John Lawrence?" And you were like, "Oh, he's one of the main characters." I was like, "What? How come I
Yeah.
don't?" The reason why, I guess, is because they don't say his name so much
They
in
say
the
it when they
story.
first start.
Yeah, when they started, and I can kind of pick up on maybe one or two other times when they mention his name and then he was speaking and he was actually in the story.
Right.
But once you're watching it, you see how often he's speaking.
Yeah.
The
You
storyline.
don't pick up like, oh, that's his voice now. That's a good point. I didn't think about that either. And quick lesson, because you're also a teacher,
Yes. Oh, and the on my way to being a teacher,
on your way,
officially.
but you're also like you're an educator. I think you're just naturally an educator anyway. But
Thank you.
I know we had that conversation about John Lawrence, and I was saying for like throw out Abraham Lincoln and replace him with John Lawrence. I don't know
Yes.
that fully. I mean, I do think it's important to learn about Abraham Lincoln. However, John Lawrence was really like he was woke for his time.
He was go hard. I mean, if you can believe the portrayal of him that is historically accurate,
Mm-hmm.
which you know what, I didn't do any background research on that character,
Well, I
but
did.
according to this play, oh, you did.
I
Of course you
did. I'm not
did.
going to say it if I don't look it up. So, or I'll put a disclaimer if I don't look it up. But for John Lawrence, he actually was interested in using that war to as a pathway to free slaves. He didn't believe in slavery,
Hmm.
and his whole thing is let's pay plantation owners $1,000 per slave for them to join the war, and after let them be free. Like he wanted to just lead these slaves to freedom, which was awesome
Hmm.
versus Abraham Lincoln, who did want slavery to be ended, obviously, but he also didn't think that blacks should be treated as equals. Did you know
Mm.
that?
Well, yeah, I did know that, but I guess the part about not thinking they should be treated as equals, I think I missed that part. I just kind of understood that his purposes of freeing slaves and abolitionism were secondary to his main point. Like
Yeah.
I always kind of came up hearing about him as the one who freed the slaves and he was like against slavery, but really it seemed like that was just a side project for him.
Yeah, that wasn't like his focus. And I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure there's more I could still look up on this, but
yeah.
he thought that slaves should be I'm sorry. It's not funny, but when you really think about it, like really, Abe, because he thought that he didn't want to sign the Emancipation Proclamation when he did. And then his whole thing was we should send slaves away because blacks and whites will never be able to live equally. They'll never be able to live in harmony. So he
Hmm.
wanted to send them back to Africa or South America, South or Central America.
Expensive, but okay.
Yeah, he wanted to send us our ancestors back because we would have a better life than living with whites. And there were abolitionists that
Hmm.
were very upset about that because they're saying, and it makes sense, like why would you send someone that was born and raised here away to a completely different country? I guess kind of like they took us from the country and put us our regular country.
I didn't know that.
But
That's
I was
wild.
shocked. I was shocked to find that out. That there was that, and then he also didn't think that blacks should vote. He said they should be free, they should be able to earn wages, but they shouldn't have the right to vote. Until the Civil War, where he said people that fought should have the right to vote. So
Hmm.
I have learned a lot about Lincoln, and I'm pretty sure there's more I could learn. When time passes, I'll look up more. But I was just like, wow. So
I
John
mean, I just learned a lot about Lincoln. Shoot,
Lawrence.
educate me, girl.
You know. So who is your favorite character?
Oh my gosh, I kind of felt like main character because
It
like
doesn't have
main
to be
character.
main, just your favorite overall.
Okay, you know, I think it has to be that gangster Jamaican, which he wasn't Jamaican. Oh, his name was Hercules. Yeah,
Love that man.
I loved him. He was hype. Okay,
I know.
Hercules and Lafayette, I think,
Mm,
were maybe my favorite. And I did like also John Lawrence once I saw the role that his character played in the
yeah.
show. I feel like maybe personality wise, I felt like maybe I could relate to him the most.
Good. Really?
Yeah.
I could see you would be that champion. Like, we need to focus on this issue that we
Like I
all
just
have
keep
as a
on making
whole.
my point. Like, don't forget about this though.
Don't for, yeah, that would definitely be you in the show. I took that test and it said I would be Jefferson. And low key, At first, I was side-eyeing the test. I was like, but when I think about it, I could kind of see me coming in after the drama ends. Like, oh, this
After
is
it's
like
over.
what's been happening. Okay, I'll take this leadership position. I'm good. Like, I could low key see me
And
too.
then end up being president. Yeah, I can see that too. Because in the
But
end, he
I
made
thought
it.
that was funny.
But
Mhm.
you know what? Um, okay, I have a confession to make.
Okay.
So when I first took the test, I got Aaron Burr. I was like, no,
Really?
let me retake this. I swear, I thought it was going to say like Eliza. I thought for sure it would say like Eliza Hamilton.
Hmm.
Nope, it said Aaron Burr.
So you made it say Eliza?
Well, I took it the second time and it said
Hmm.
Eliza.
Okay.
So lucky, because then I would probably just,
Just not post it like, oh, I didn't get anybody.
yeah, I'd be like, forget it.
But you
I'm
know
not
what
doing it.
though? Honestly, Aaron Burr is my favorite character in that show.
Really?
Yes. I
Uh
love his character because I just want to hug him. Like, it's honestly the most depressing character in that show, in that play.
oh.
And even looking up his life, like the man was just never happy, ever. But
Really?
the thing that I think about Lin-Manuel, the reason I think he is just such a genius for creating this work of art that has completely obsessed, I'm completely obsessed with, is just the way that it flows where I mean, you don't know it the first time you watch it, and I've watched it like a time and a half now. You don't realize it the first time you watch it, but just him the foreshadowing in all of the songs where when he befriends Burr, his
Mhm.
character is always looking up to him as someone that he wants to be until he realizes he's someone he's disgusted with. But from that
Mm.
very first moment, you see Hamilton, and he lives up to his character, where he's like, um, "Why would I do that? When wait, talk less, smile more." In that moment, and
I
he's just
hate
like,
that
"Why
line.
would you not just be yourself? Why don't you just say what you want?" And yet he still puts that respect on his name every time. Every time he addresses Aaron Burr, it's sir. So he's always trying to encourage him to live up to this vision of him that he sees
Mm.
that Aaron Burr can't see himself.
Mhm.
I love that. And I'm just like, man, Burr, see your potential. I just want the ending to
You
be
know, in a way, I feel like I could see you as um, Hamilton
really.
too, in a way. Yeah.
Why? I'm curious.
Because Hamilton, he seemed like he was just a lover, period. Not a hater, just a lover, you know?
Mhm.
And he thought he was friends with Aaron. You know, he did look up to him. He thought they were friends. He was completely oblivious, apparently, to this undercurrent of discontent or envy that Aaron may have had toward him. And even after he became aware of it, he didn't let that distract him from what he saw as Aaron's ability. Like when he went to him and asked him to help write the articles, you know. And in the end, I kind of feel like that was one characteristic of the show that I liked in general.
Mhm.
That they had their differences, but they had a goal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, they didn't let their differences necessarily make them lose sight of the goal.
Mhm.
But Hamilton, the thing I think that maybe, I mean, if you listen to this play, it seems like he's the greatest character. It seems like he's the greatest of all the founding fathers, even though he was the one who didn't become president.
Mhm.
Because he was the character that America could love and be interested in and look up to, you know?
It's funny.
Because he embodies our values. Huh?
He does. And one thing I did relate to, I tell on myself all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of hate that about myself, but I'm always like, man, I just can't let people think I'm this thing I'm not. Like, I failed at this thing I didn't, right? And when Hamilton did that, when they were going to out his affair, and he's like, I'm just going to tell everybody
Do
about
it first. Yes.
it. I'm like, I would probably do something like
Yes.
that.
I love that part. I was like, yes. I didn't when I was listening to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, you wouldn't. I don't think you notice it as much, but when you see it, it's like, oh my gosh. So, yeah, I like that part too.
I loved it. It made me respect him more because
I know.
after listening to it, I was like, I really love this musical, but dang, he was kind of grimy.
It is
But when
hard.
I realized that he kind of came out and owned his business and didn't wait and wait and wonder and worry about when it was going to come out or try to blackmail someone else or dig up dirt on someone else in order to maintain his, you know, maintain his reputation or his career prospects. I respect that.
Me too. Me too. I really do. And I think another life lesson from Burr was he was just never satisfied because honestly, that man, he had a lot going for him. Hamilton, yeah, Hamilton went in, well, I mean, from where we start, went in saying, this is the person I want to be the most like. I need to understand him. I need to befriend him. I need him to mentor me. And it ended up being where they switched and Hamilton was here and Burr was like here. But Burr was there because of his own decisions. And yet he was so focused on why Hamilton wasn't where he was. Like, why is he ahead of me? That he could never focus on himself. You know? I thought that was the
well, but don't forget that in the reality, he's the one who actually became the vice president. You know what I mean?
There's something.
I guess it just depends on what your goal was, I never had the impression through the musical anyway that Hamilton's goal was to be president. I mean, he was an immigrant anyway, so.
Right.
Was that even legal? Would it have even been legal for him to be president?
That's a good point. I don't know how it was then. I'm assuming, but I don't know. That's a good question.
I mean, I don't know because
I don't remember them saying that was his goal.
Yeah, it didn't even seem like like he cared about that, It seemed like actually I didn't even realize that was Aaron Burr's goal until halfway through the thing.
I don't think that they talked about it initially. There was no president when it started. Remember that.
Right.
That happened after the war.
Right.
So, what was your favorite song?
Oh, Lord. I feel like every time I've listened to it,
it changes.
I don't want to say it changed, but it was like my list grew. Like, it's hard to choose. There are so many good ones. But I have to admit that one of the ones that stood out to me the most was Aaron Burr, Sir.
I know.
And Wait, which are both Aaron Burr, Sir, and what was it? Wait for It.
I love that song. Mine was Nonstop. You know that though.
Yes,
I love that song. It's obsessive. And then The Story of Tonight. I think that's just such a beautiful moment with friendship and not seeing not black men, but just men, period, portrayed that way with just that love and the friendship and just the being there for each other. That's something that this showed that I don't know what I've seen something like that in, honestly. Not recently, at least.
Well, I don't know. I feel like maybe we do see more portrayals of women in those, than black men. I don't know. I feel like in Les Miserables, it seems like it's more so camaraderie,
right? Than
friendship.
Than that love and friendship. And I think the two times that they do that song, you see that throughout the whole song, just that like the silliness and the conversations that you have with your friends. So I'd love to see more of that, just genuine male friendship.
I didn't think of that angle of it.
Okay.
So Nonstop is your favorite. So was it hard for you to pick that, or it was just a clear favorite? I knew it
from the moment I heard it that this is about to be my favorite song. I love it.
I have to say that song inspires me the most.
Really? Why?
Yeah. Well, first of all, because it's about writing. And I just remember being in college, and I feel like my biggest obstacle in college was when those papers came up. That
Really?
was the bane of my existence. Even
I
though
wouldn't think that for you.
why not?
Why not? Because not because you read, just because I remember some of the things that you wrote when we were kids, like in high school. Or you know what? No, one of my memories of you that sticks out, which is crazy, because we've known each other most of our lives. But it's in Mr. Williams' class, our Bible class, when we had to
Hmm.
submit this assignment for a song that shows love, what love means to us. Do you remember that?
I'm scared. Finish the story.
But you submitted flaws and all. Do you remember that?
Wow, Shireen, how do
I
you remember?
That just sticks out to me. And you know why? Because I was like, oh my goodness. Trey's the only person I know that would submit a song that says bitch for a Bible. And I was just like, man, that girl's got some cojones on her.
I didn't
I
even think about it. I probably didn't even occur to me,
don't
honestly.
think you
Like,
did. I'm the one that played. I'm like, really? You're gonna turn this in? And you got an A. And he was like, that was an excellent job. And you taught me a lesson in that moment about
did I remember this? Keep going. About
no,
what?
I remember. I will never forget it because I was just like, I really can't believe she just got an A for submitting this in Bible class, right? And I was like, man, I have to respect that because you were true to yourself in that moment. And I think that's one of the overall themes in Hamilton, just being true to yourself and living out your
Mm-hmm.
own legacy. Because when you don't, you cause destruction in everyone else's life.
And I mean, I love that about this play
Mm-hmm.
because, it kind of rearranged the definition of what success is, or it highlighted the fact that your success is kind of based on what your goals were in the first place,
Yeah.
and he stayed true to what his goals were in the first place. I mean, he's a lover, and he's a lover of people, and he cared about of course he was ambitious, and he wanted to be seen, but he wanted to be recognized, he wanted to be loved. He
Mm-hmm.
sought, recognition and acceptance. And I mean, I'm not saying that's necessarily one of the traits that they say you should have in a leader. It's not really one of the power traits to have,
Right.
And I feel like in the end, that's what kind of was his downfall as well, because his pride, I mean, got the best of him, and how it looked to other people, And I mean, after his son dies in a duel, you're going to go and do the same thing, which I'm not convinced that was entirely an accident on his part, because it just doesn't make sense. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't even aim
Yeah.
at the guy, But I just love the fact that, remember the song when they were talking about Washington, or it must be nice to have Washington on your side?
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the song, even though he didn't become vice president, he didn't attain the heights that Aaron Burr attained, they were singing, it would be nice to have Hamilton on your side,
Yeah.
And it just makes me think of the narrative that we have in this day and age, where in order for you to make a change, you have to be in some lofty position, or you have to be a politician or whatever,
Especially,
or even that you have to vote, which, I mean, or that you have to buy into the system as it is already, But he had the respect of the people, and he had the influence to make the difference between who was president and who wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's the kind of influence that could have outlived either one of the presidencies.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
It's always going to be in that position.
And it just highlights to me how when your priorities aren't in the right place in the first place, they're in the right direction, when you're focused on helping people and how to make the world a better place, and less about your own political ambitions, then that's real power. I don't think real power is in controlling things. I think it's in influencing, and that's what he had, influence. And so I love how it highlighted that, and I love how he stayed true to who he was.
Right. He was charismatic. Charisma gets you far. I love that. Yeah.
He was an islander.
Another thing that I loved was the representation in that play, because we don't see a mainstream work of art that shows so many minorities ever. Have we seen something like that where it's not like created by a Black person or a person of color, and it's not like an ethnic thing?
I mean, I don't think I know enough about theater to know, but I doubt it. And you know what? It was mostly Black people. It wasn't even mostly minorities. It was mostly Black people, and that I hadn't seen. I mean, of course you have like Carmen. Well, did that even make it to Broadway? Carmen?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I mean, it's based off of another play.
Oh, right. It was not. It was an original.
Mm-mm.
And then of course he did another play before that that I think made it to Broadway. It was called Heights, The Heights, or whatever. And I'm sure it had a lot of minorities in it as well, right. But it didn't have the type of success
that this had.
Which I don't think have you even heard of The Heights?
No, actually, no. Yes, but only because I looked him up.
Right.
Yeah, but he took 7 years to write this. So talk about lessons we can learn from Lin-Manuel.
Labor of love, girl. Right? And honestly, every time it's so layered. Every time I listen to it, I feel like I pick up on something new. I learn something new, and I feel like there's going to be a lot more. I'm not tired of it yet. I feel like there's going to be a lot more I'm going to get from it as I continue listening to it.
So it's funny because I was having this conversation with Kaleem about just works of art that inspire me and the reason for that, right? Because obviously everyone knows I'm a Beyonce fan. That's nothing new. But I'm just inspired by her labors of love and her willingness to put work in that she doesn't know that someone else will enjoy. I've heard her say on multiple occasions, like, I don't know, I'm nervous. I don't know how people are going to receive this. And they do receive it well. And I mean, you never know how people are going to take what you do. But I saw that in this too, in Hamilton, where you're just doing something because you have this passion for it. He put this biography on Hamilton to read on vacation. Like, this is what he read for fun, and he became so obsessed with it that he's like, I'm writing a whole musical. So you just never know when your labor of love is going to be received by 10 people or millions of people. You really don't know. So keep working on that thing that you're working on, and keep feeling inspired, because you never know what it can end up being.
Where's the wisdom from Shereen?
What? Yeah.
No, but you're right. And I think, I guess I never really made my point about the writing in college, and a lot of times it was last minute, and you were just trying to meet the guidelines.
That's true.
Which I did very well. I was really good at following the rules and giving people like what they were expecting, and and I did that. And I guess in college, as the material became more difficult, that's what made it so stressful. Is writing is enjoyable when it's coming from a genuine place, when it's coming from a genuine interest, not because someone told you to read this book that you had no interest in reading, and that they want you to answer these questions that you never had, that questions that you didn't have when you read the book, And with Hamilton, his writing, he was writing passionately about something that he believed in. And, they keep asking the question, why do you write like you're running out of time? Why do you write like it's going out of style? He had a lot to say. He wanted to get it
people
out.
Actually were interested in.
You say it again?
that people were actually interested in.
And people were actually interested in what he had to say. And I think that regardless of whether people were interested in it or not, he had something to say. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I feel like whenever you're creating anything, especially when it comes to writing, you know, there's a lot of people who don't like writing, you know? But I feel like that has a lot to do with not knowing what your voice is, or not knowing what your point is, not knowing what you have to say, right. You know? And I think that it just, you know, highlighted that for me. My mom always told me I was good at writing. I always kind of felt like I didn't like it much, you know? But I realized it's because I was always letting other people tell me how to use my voice, whether it be because I was always waiting, procrastinating to the last minute to get my assignment done, mm-hmm. instead of taking my time and becoming one with it, you know? And so, I don't know, he inspired me because that song highlighted excellence, and how true excellence can only really be achieved when you marry it with passion and purpose, mm-hmm. you know? Mm-hmm. And I want to do that, so.
Wisdom from Sharia, right?
Well.
I love it. Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to talk to me about this amazing, amazing play. I'm going to go keep watching it.
Thank you for being an amazing interviewer, Shireen. I was really nervous about doing this.
You were?
And I was, because you said conversation. If you had said interview, I would have been like, I mean, you were prepared with questions. I was just like, man, I hope I don't have to know what to say off the top of my head. I have no clue.
No, I just wanted to talk about it. Like we talked about it when we were kids in my room, you know, stuff like that.
And that is how this felt. So I say it's not really natural. So I think that's awesome.
So you'll do this with me again.
Huh? You said what? Bye, Shireen.
Just say yes. I love you.
Bye. Bye. Love you too. Bye. But Hamilton, you know, you're going to have to cut this out because I'm losing my train of thought. Okay, hold on. Give me a minute.
I don't remember what I was going to say. It was that.
Oh, I forgot what I was going to say too. We're a pair.
I know.